What's up, friends? Welcome to Chaos Live on this fun-filled Saturday evening. This is my fun little live stream I like to do on the weekends to hang out with you awesome people, answer your questions if possible. Sometimes the chat gets a little crazy, but if you have a question, leave it in the chat and I'll do my best to get to them. I cannot go every single one because it just ends up getting a little too crazy and I get too far behind, so I do jump around a little bit, so bear with me. Probably not skipping your question on purpose, most likely, but I do what I can. So thanks to you awesome people that are part of that notification platoon, because you got the alert and you jumped right in. Some of you, like before I even saw the preview of the live stream. So we got like Andrew Jackson, for example. You were in the chat, I think, before I even had the thing, like, for the preview up. So I hit stream, preview was loading, you're already in the chat. Amazing. But thanks for joining. We got to load the video. We got Thomas, we got T-Dog, we got Edward, we got, what is it, Hyperon, we got Rodrigo, we got YouTuber Fan, Hung Bung, Easton, we got Charles, Marissa, who else we got? I think that's pretty much every. Lindsay C. Cool, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you'll notice, by the way, we have an awesome member of the channel in the chat here. Edward Jr. was awesome enough to join and be the membership. So he's got a little private rank, which is pretty much what everybody's got right now, because there's nobody who's been a member for longer than a month, but past the month you move up to the PFC rank and so on and so forth. So if you want a cool little icon next to your name, and as well as some other perks that come with different tiers, maybe think about hitting that join button that's probably down below. If you don't see the join button, there should be also a link down in the description, because like if you're watching this on a mobile device, you might not see it. So you can check it out down there. You can get some cool perks, get a cool little icon next to your name. Plus you guys have special emojis that are available to you. I'm gonna work on some of the emojis because I can now add some more, but I have a few kind of just basic ones. So, all right, let's get into it. Enough self-promotion stuff. Check out the join later if you want, or now, whatever you want to do. Let's get into some questions. Let's see, what do we have? What did he do in the Army? I was an 88 Mike Transportation. Got a video on it if you want to see that. Don't forget to like the video. I agree, Charles. If you guys have a good time, make sure to hit that thumbs up. We'll see if we can't get past 50 or something. So we'll try to get past that. If I can't be in the CG auxiliary, I might join the State Guard. Well, good luck to you. Hopefully that works out well. I don't know anything about like National Guard or anything like that. Like I said, all my experience is active duty, so all my stuff is active duty. I don't really know anything of what it's like other than a few stories here and there from Reserve people, National Guard people, and all that stuff. But all my experience was from active duty. The Marine Corps General Robert Neller has been retired a few days ago. That's cool. I don't know who that is though. I don't really keep up with Marine stuff. What's up, Carlos? We got a super chat already too. What do we got? The Traveling Soldier. Thanks for the donation. We got Lindsay C. Do I have a chance to be a 68 Fox physical therapy specialist if I have anxiety and depression? It is not dangerous or stressful of a job like infantry, so would I have more of a chance to get a waiver? It all depends on the severity of it. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how the doctors at MEPS are gonna, evaluate different things, but that's really what it comes down to, is the MEPS doctors and all that stuff are gonna evaluate you, and if they feel that it's at a high enough level that it could cause a problem, then you might be disqualified for it. But I can't tell you for sure because I'm not a doctor, so I really don't know. The only thing you can do is give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At least you know then. But I wouldn't go and not try at least. Thinking that because you have this or that or whatever that you're not going to get in. It doesn't hurt to try. Give it a shot. Maybe you get in. Maybe you get a waiver or whatever. So good luck to you. Hopefully it works out. How could one become a canine operation? Always wanted to handle a fur missile in battle. This is a specific MOS. I don't know a whole lot about it. I have to do some research on it. Eventually it'll probably be an MOS Monday episode, but I don't know anything about it. There's a specific MOS. There's probably specific requirements for that and all that kind of craziness. So definitely check that out. Southern Sun, what's happening? We got Jay the Born, another awesome member of the channel. Got the cool little rank man. I would have, if I had the availability to do so, I could promote you, but can't do that. I don't get to do that. Hey, Chris, just saying hi. Can't stay today because I'm actually at a Angels baseball game. Well, good job. Awesome. Good deal. Take care. P.S. Love the new icons. Awesome. So yeah, if you want a cool icon like Jay the Born, you got there, that little private rank, join the channel. 30 days until I ship to OSIT. Hell yeah, I'm so excited. Well, good luck to you. Hopefully all goes well over there in OSIT. tell me about 68 Whiskey. I have a video on it if you want later, or you're just not into the stream, I don't know. But I have a MOS Monday episode on 68 Whiskey, so you can check that out. It gives you the basic rundown of all that stuff. If I join the Army with 10 college credits, would that allow me to enter at a higher rank? I don't think with 10. I think that's too low. I think at a minimum, you're going to need whatever college credits, what is it, like 20, 30 or something like that? I forget what it is. To make an associate's, usually you have to have an associate's. So I don't think 10 college credits is enough to make an associate's. Could someone have 2 MOSs in the Army? Sort of, not really, like in the way you think. You can't just like bounce back and forth between MOSs. So like you usually have a primary, and then there are some situations where you're allowed to have a secondary MOS. It depends, and that allows you, but usually those are related to the job. Like for example, they have, I don't know if this is specifically a secondary MOS, but an example of it is like fuelers. You have your, I forget what the MOS is for a fueler, but some of those individuals, after they complete AIT for being a fueler, will go on to 88 mic, and they'll do the AIT for 88 mics because trucks go along with it. And they kind of end up with kind of like a secondary MOS of 88 mic because they've been to the AIT, and there's other jobs that are similar, but you can't do anything like you wanted to be Infantry 11 Bravo, but also a satellite engineer or something crazy like that, right? They don't go together, so you wouldn't be able to do like a secondary MOS like that. They usually have to kind of go together. So I met with a recruiter and need to work on weight loss, and my practice ASVAB score was a 39, but gonna keep studying and lose 50 pounds and off to MEPS. Well, good luck to you, Southern Sun. Hopefully it works out. Just do a lot of cardio, bunches of cardio, and then studying. Got Jay the Vorn, or not Jay the Vorn, still seeing the thing. Edward, see, he's got the cool little emojis going on down there. If you look over there, over here, wherever it's at on the screen. Oh, it's on my screen, it's down there, but it's got the Hula ones. As a rejected delayed entry cadet, can I run on veteran hikes? I don't know. I could not tell you on that. The Hula one, I got Edward using the Hula one and the other ones, the flag and the chaos ones, like the new emojis. I don't know if the Hula one I'll keep. It's probably hard. You can't probably even read the Hula on there. So that one I might get rid of that emoji. How to get 100% of college paid? Well, if you are a veteran, you get the GI Bill, which pays for all of your college. So you get that. So that's one way of possibly doing it. If you get a scholarship, like you're on Green to Gold, you doing the ROTC Army Scholarship or something like that, you get that paid for. But otherwise, if you join the Army, get out honorably, you can use the GI Bill benefits and score that paid college. Currently going through the application process for JAG with the Army. Was wondering if you could do a video on direct commission training and how it differs from normal OCS besides the time length. Well, I mean, you have to do one of 3 ways. You either have to do, so OCS is for someone who already has a bachelor's degree who wants to come in as an officer. Otherwise, there's ROTC, which still requires you going to college for 4 years. So you have to go through college for 4 years, or you can do the really hard way, which is West Point, which West Point is a 4-year college, but it's a strictly military college where, like, if you go to ROTC, that's just a regular college that has a ROTC program. But otherwise, there's no other way to directly come into the military as an officer if you don't have a bachelor's degree. If you don't have a bachelor's degree or above, you can't come in as an officer. It doesn't work any other way. Do you have any advice for applying to West Point? I applied this past year and didn't receive an appointment. I don't really know a whole lot. I know that you're supposed to have some kind of like recommendation from like a senator or a governor or something along those, like a political official or somebody. You have to have really good grades, but I really don't know really a whole lot about applying for West Point and how that whole process works too well. Is it Commandant or, oh, well, I say it Commandant, so I don't know if like Commandant or Commandant. It's Commandant. Could someone switch from their unit to another unit that's deploying in order to get deployed? Sometimes. That depends on a lot of different factors. For one, a lot of times when a unit is deploying, they're going through a lot of training. They're going to the National Training Center, they're doing field problems, they're doing all sorts of prep for this deployment. If you have not been able to attend that prep, that training and everything like that, they might not want you to come to their unit to do that. Also, if your unit really needs the MOS that you're actually in, then they're not going to allow you to leave. So there's a lot of factors that play into there. Yes, sometimes you can volunteer if you know that there's a unit that's getting ready to deploy at some point in time, but otherwise you are not going to be able to do it. Sometimes it's a tricky kind of situation to try to do, but it's possible. It's just kind of a little difficult. Well, I'm off later, Brother Mail. Thanks, Southern Sun. See you later. In New York State Guard, there are 6 job categories. You're a generalist, and you can specialize in up to 4 at once. Okay, interesting. Don't know anything about any of that stuff. If you could have had any MOS, what would it be? I've always said it before in the live streams before, but 25 Victor would be pretty cool. It's like a documentary specialist. You do a lot of camera work, a lot of video production stuff, and that would have been pretty cool. But it wasn't until maybe about 2 or 3 years into the Army that I developed a like interest in video production. So it wasn't something like I was interested in before I joined the Army. But being in the Army, so I didn't want to re-enlist for it or reclass to it because I wasn't really ever interested in staying in the Army for forever or anything like that. So, thoughts on private military, such as Blackwater? I don't really have a whole lot of opinion. I know there's some shady stuff that was happening in Iraq with like those private companies like Blackwater, but I don't really pay attention to a whole lot of stuff, so I don't really have a good opinion on any of it. Would I get paid for basic training? Yes. As soon as day 1 of shipping out and you're starting basic training, you're officially in the military and you're getting paid. Your paycheck sometimes will be a little bit delayed for that very first one because they're getting you in process into the system, getting your direct deposit started, because normally in the Army you get paid on the 1st and the 15th of each month, unless the 1st or 15th falls on like a holiday or a weekend, then you get paid the work day prior to that. But in basic training, you might not get your paycheck for 30 days. You know, it might be a 30-day kind of processing kind of time frame to get it going and get it started. But yes, you get, once you first day of basic training starts, you start getting paid from then on. Is a job of an officer different from an enlisted soldier? What's the difference? Basically, they're more of a leadership kind of position. They're more of the planning side of things, a little bit more leadership of role, where the enlisted soldier is more of like the worker bee kind of a person. The person's actually getting the mission accomplished. Officer is more of the supervisor overseeing and making sure things get accomplished. They'll do some stuff. Obviously, they're not like just sitting in an office their entire time. But for the most part, their main role is to make sure the missions are getting accomplished, training is getting done, and a lot of other like kind of leadership type of roles, different things. What's happening, Doug the Eliminator? How's it going? Hey, Chris, in your opinion, what is the worst part of the Army life? What is the best part? Worst part, I'd say sometimes just having to work so much and not getting anything extra out of it as far as like earning extra income or anything because you put in a crap ton of hours. I mean, you could be doing like every other day of 24-hour duty, and that happens sometimes like around holidays if you don't take vacation or other situations, and you don't get anything different for pay. You're working like crazy, or you're just stuck in a lot of late days because you're on a deployment or you're preparing for a deployment or something like that. And that kind of is a bummer a lot of times, you know, just always getting just the same paycheck. But at the same time, it's still good because there's also times when you work very little and still get that same paycheck. So that part's good. But as far as the best part, I'd say the people. It's always pretty cool to, you know, you usually get to meet a lot of cool people. I've made a lot of good friends through the military and got to meet a lot of cool individuals. So probably the people is probably one of my favorite. Can I use the GI Bill right away for school if my MOS allows to do some school? No, you can't use your GI Bill until after you've already left the Army. There are some options for tuition assistance while you're still in the Army. Usually that requires re-enlisting for that. So you don't get to just immediately go into it. Now, if you do something like reserves, they have some programs where you can kind of get into the reserves, and then while you're not doing drill, be doing some college courses and everything, and you get tuition assistance for that, or you're using part of your GI Bill, I think, or something like that. Not too sure on all the pieces of it, but if you're doing active duty, you're not going to be able to use your GI Bill until you've gotten out of the Army. You've already done your contract and gotten out. So, if you were to go back in time, what branch would you join? I don't know. Probably if I was going to go back in time, I might still stick with Army, but do a 25 Victor. It'd probably be more of an MOS thing. I mean, because I could say like Air Force would be a little bit sweeter because it's a little bit more relaxed in some ways, but I don't know for sure. I don't have that experience. I already know what the Army is going to be like, so I already know what to expect better, but maybe doing a better MOS that I would enjoy more would be probably more ideal. rather than just assuming that the Air Force is more relaxed and easier. So probably just be a better bet if I was going back in time to go back, still do the Army, but do 25 Victor. Hey Chris, I got option 40 contract. Do you know any Rangers and have any advice on training? I don't know like anybody, like friends that I hang out with or anything like that did Rangers or were in the Rangers. I've met people, throughout a lot of times, that were Rangers and stuff. As far as like to get into it, like once you're in the Rangers, it's just a little bit, it's kind of similar to a lot of units, just a little bit higher kind of pace of things. But as far as Ranger school, a little bit of that I've talked to with like some people that have gone through it and everything like that. The biggest thing is having the motivation to not give up, to go through it. It's going to suck. It's going to be very, very physical, and you're going to have to really prepare yourself for the physical part of it, but also mentally of making sure that you don't quit and give up. So you have to kind of push yourself through all that and kind of be ready for that. That's the best thing I could possibly say from all the experience that I've gotten from other people who've told me about like their experience doing that. Do reserves go to basic training? They do. Army, active duty, reserves, National Guard all go to basic training, but then after basic training, the AIT, they kind of go their separate ways. Active duty soldiers go to their first unit. Reservists, National Guard go back home and probably report to their local unit they're going to be doing drill with, and then find out when their next drill cycle is going to be. My mom talked to a recruiter and she described me. He said, all right, send him my way. All right, good deal. We had Air Force train with us. Their PT was a joke. I've heard I have a relative that was in the Air Force, and I've known several people to be in the Air Force, and their PT was definitely a lot more relaxed than the Army. There's a lot of cases where I hear that they wouldn't do it 5 days a week like the Army does. They would do it once in a great while. Most of the time it was on your own. So it wasn't as structured as like the Army is. I don't know if that's probably not globally, may not be globally, I don't know. But all the experiences I've always heard, oh yeah, we sometimes do it once a week, maybe twice a week, but most of the time it's on your own. You're responsible for doing physical fitness on your own. So I was like, okay. Chris, I know you get shot at medical when you enlist. What? As well as, get shots, I'm assuming, not like, shots, not shot. And I was like, when you get shot, that's pretty hardcore. You get shots at medical when you enlist, as well as when you first get deployed. But if you get deployed multiple times, do you keep getting the same shots over and over? They keep track of your shot records. It's basically kind of like similar to civilian world if you were going to see a doctor often. They keep track of your shot records. If you are up to date on your shots, you don't get shots. There are certain times where you'll get a specific shot because of the location you're going to. For example, when I went to Iraq, the very first time I went, I had to get the smallpox shot. The second time I went, because I already had the smallpox shot, I didn't have to get it again, but anybody else who had never been to Iraq before would get the smallpox shot, and different things like that. So they try to keep you up to date on your shots, on what you're supposed to be getting, when you're supposed to be getting them. The only specific ones you get before deployments is if it's something like that, like there's some kind of risk in that area and they want to vaccinate you for that to help prevent against that. Otherwise, if you're already up to date on your shots, then you might not get anything. So that just really varies. What is a 25 Victor? It is a like a documentary specialist. Basically, they shoot video, create video products for the Army. So it seemed like it'd be kind of cool. Is it possible to join Delta Force? You can't really like right out the gate join Delta Force. Usually they recruit people from the Rangers and the Special Forces and things like that. So usually you have to kind of become accomplished in some kind of Special Forces or Rangers or something like that, and then possibly you might get recruited, or you can try to like apply for something like that. But otherwise, no. Has anyone joined the French Foreign Legion? I don't even know anything about the French Foreign Legion. What is the Green to Gold program? That is basically where you are able to go from an enlisted soldier to become an officer. They kind of essentially put you out of the Army temporarily so that you can go to college on an Army college scholarship. You go to 4 years of college to get a bachelor's degree while doing ROTC, and then come back in the Army as an officer. Something kind of along those lines. There's a lot more to it, but that's kind of the quick down and dirty. What Army MOS does not deploy? I don't think there is anything specifically that does not deploy, because everybody's supposed to deploy if the unit is going to deploy. I don't know if there's any non-deployable MOSs. I don't think so. So I don't think there's an MOS that does not deploy for the most part. There's going to be MOSs that, you know, have less of a combat role in a deployment, but as far as MOSs that don't deploy, I don't know if that exists. Do you recommend military? I don't know. It depends on everybody's personal goals and stuff. I don't say that everybody should do the military, the Army, the Air Force, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a personal thing, and it depends on if the goals that you want to achieve in life match up to doing things that are in the military. So that just kind of really depends in there. We got a super chat. We got Landoff or Lander. I always forget how to say it, but I know who you are. I remember that you told me you changed your name. And was it Michael? I think originally. If you have, thanks for the donation, by the way. If you have a prison sentence, can you join? No. If you're convicted felon, you can't join. If you're like, there was always that like myth kind of a thing of go to war, go to prison. There's actually an Army documentation that says that, you know, if like they cannot give you some kind of situation like that. There might be some kind of like weird backdoor ways that people did something similar to that, but for the most part, there is an actual kind of like regulation that states that you cannot join the military in order to get out of a sentence. Even though some people will try to claim, oh no, you can't. No, there's probably a backdoor way of where they were able to drop the charges and then allow you to join the military, but it wasn't in replace of your sentence. It's kind of a weird loophole that some people kind of try to say that they did that way, but they didn't. It's weird. But no, if you have a prison sentence, can't join. And then it depends on like the crime too. Like if the crime was really severe, then that's going to eliminate you from being able to join. But if it's not severe, then you might still be able to join. They call the chair force for a reason. Yeah, somewhat. When do you think the best time to talk to your recruiter? Like they are the most busy at summer since graduation. Like best time so you have more likely chance of getting a good MOS. I don't know if there's a good time. Maybe not during the summer. Maybe because a lot of high school kids are graduating and trying to join the military. But then there's still some people that plan ahead of time. So I don't know. Probably ask the recruiter that. Probably I don't know. Maybe during the winter time or something when everybody's not kind of that's kind of as busy. I don't know. I'm not too sure. If Army pays you for your vacation anywhere in the world, where would you go? I don't know. I would probably want to go maybe Australia. I've never been to Australia, but I've heard some parts of Australia are really bad. So I'd want to make sure to probably go to the touristy areas, the parts that are good. But I've never been to Australia. I think that would be probably pretty cool to go to. I mean, there's a lot of countries I've never been to, but Australia is one that I would probably want to visit. Skip around a little bit. If you want to deploy, you should not even be thinking about the military, huh? Oh, if you don't want to deploy, yeah, probably. Because pretty much everybody can possibly deploy. So. I served with chaos in Iraq, just kidding. What? Felonies will bar you, yeah. Like felonies are pretty severe. Some smaller crimes won't hurt you as bad. Oh, by the way, what was it, Michael, right? Did the super chat earlier? If you didn't know, we got the cool membership thing available now. Down below, there's a join button, or down a link in the description, there's a link that you can get to. You can join the channel, and you get some extra perks. So, I mean, the super chats, those are cool and everything like that. But if you want a little bit more than just me answering your question, maybe look into that. And if that's something that interests you, then hit that join button and check them out. See if those are something that piques your interest. Leaving to a reception Monday. I'm not at weight for my height, but I did pass the tape test when I get a reception. Will they make me lose weight before going to basic, or will I be fine? If you're already going and I don't know. I want to say for sure. A lot of times recruiters won't even let you kind of start the process of signing up if you're close to that, because they don't want to take the chance of you gaining some weight and then not making the standards or whatever, and then all that kind of stuff. So sometimes recruiters won't even do it. But if you're saying you're already going to reception, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what they would really do. But typically, recruiters don't even let you unless you're well within the standards and not in risk of possibly going over or under the standards. It's hot in Georgia, I would imagine. Imagine Georgia's pretty hot. In the Army, do you have to enlist before being an officer? No, you don't have to. You go enlisted and you can go straight into the military, but if you're going to be an officer, then you need some college. So that's just kind of the general kind of thing. Australia was a former penal colony. Interesting, okay. Was basic training hard at first? In a lot of ways. Everybody's gonna have their own experiences with basic training. It definitely wasn't fun for me. You know, it was a lot of kind of stressful a little bit. You know, there's sometimes where it's really physical, sometimes where it's more mental than others. But I wouldn't say it was easy, but I wouldn't say it's impossible either. It's not as, definitely, of course, it's not as intense as something like Ranger School or Special Forces selection or anything like that, of course. But, you know, I wouldn't say it's easy. There's going to be some times where it's easy because you're just doing some classes or some little things, but there's also going to be some times where it's kind of difficult and a little bit challenging as well. Where's the best duty station to be stationed at in the U.S.? My personal opinion, just based on duty stations I've been to, is Fort Carson. That's where I currently live, is in that area, in the Colorado Springs area. And I just really like the area. The area is great. There's a lot to do in the area. You know, you're always going to have chances where you go to one duty station, you have crappy leadership, and then you go to another duty station, you have great leadership. That's going to vary from anywhere. So there's no guarantee anywhere as you go that they're going to have great leadership or bad leadership. That's just really going to vary. But the area is really what makes a good duty station, is if there's a lot of entertainment, a lot of things you're interested in and doing in the area, so that you can have some of that off time and enjoy some of that stuff, then that's always good. So Fort Carson, of the places I've been to, were my favorite, but there's a lot of other places I've never been to, so I can't really say for sure, but of my experience, Fort Carson. Smoke a lot of weed. Will that bar me from joining the Army? Yes, it will. You'll come up hot on a piss test, and you will not be allowed to join the Army. When you move to your first duty station and you have the Army move your stuff, does your stuff go into storage when you get there while you look for housing? I'm married. Yeah, essentially is what they'll kind of do is they'll pack up all your stuff and they'll move it to your duty station. If you're not ready, they'll usually give you a call or they'll give you a letter or something, some kind of form of communication to let you know, hey, your stuff has made it to your location. And then you'll have to set up an appointment. You know, if you're not ready to set that appointment up, you have for them to deliver your stuff because you haven't moved into a place yet. Then you tell them, hey, I'm not in a place yet or whatever. And then, you know, have to call them back to arrange an appointment for them to bring it over. But they usually have all that stuff inside of some kind of trailer, and they'll have a yard somewhere, so maybe they're storing it. And then when you're ready to have it moved in, schedule an appointment for them to bring your household goods to wherever it is you're living and drop it off then. The first culture shock of basic training would be losing your freedom. Although you are not incarcerated, your freedom is severely restricted. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, it's definitely really, really restricted. So that part is pretty crazy. Always having to have a battle buddy was the worst part of basic. Yeah. So I remember, like, in that video that I did for the things that, what was it, the things you're not allowed to do or things you must do or something. I think it was things you must do in the military or something like that. One of those videos, and Battle Buddy was mentioned, and you get all these old school people or whatever. They're like, Battle Buddy, that doesn't exist. That's not a thing. Or some people that'll be like in the Army now, and they're like we never have battle buddies, and it's not like an everyday thing. A lot of people blew that whole battle buddy thing out of proportion. You have select times when you are going to be required to have a battle buddy, and there might be times when you have a battle buddy and you just may not consider him a battle buddy. That's just the terminology that's used. You have a battle buddy in basic training where you always have to go somewhere. If you're on a deployment, you're supposed to, you know, go in groups of twos. That's considered having a battle buddy, even though some people may not be familiar with that, you know, kind of terminology or whatever. But that's having a battle buddy because you have to go somewhere in groups of twos. And then sometimes in the field as well. And then a lot of times there's times even in garrison where it's not a thing where you have to have a battle buddy to go with you everywhere, but you have to have kind of someone's phone number so that if you were in trouble or something like that, you have someone in your unit that you can call. And that's kind of the other kind of way that I was kind of wording it. But a lot of people took that all crazy and got all crazy with it, I remember. But yeah, having a battle buddy in basic is kind of a pain, I guess. Having a battle buddy anytime really sometimes can be a pain, unless that person's a cool person, you like hanging out with them anyways. How can I get my unit patch? You get your unit patch when you go to your unit. So when you join the army, you go to unit, whatever unit patch they're all wearing in that unit is the unit patch you have to put on your uniform. Chaos, did you have a car in the army, and what did you do with it when you went to Baghdad? So I did, yeah, I had a car. My first deployment and my second deployment, I left it with family. So I left my car with family. They took care of my car. That's an option that a lot of people maybe do. Other options that people can do is they usually have a storage place where they'll put their vehicles, and they can have their vehicles stored for them, and then when you come back, then they'll bring them back out. The kind of a pain in the ass with that I've seen before was they'll have this huge like field somewhere so that all these cars are parked in, and then when you come back on deployment, you might be blocked in by some of the other cars by people who aren't back from the deployment yet. You kind of come back in waves, like you might come back like on Monday, and then the next wave comes back on like Thursday or Wednesday. It just really varies. And so you might be kind of stuck waiting for some of the cars that have you blocked in that lot to get out of the way so that you can get to your car. And I heard that's a little bit of a nightmare. But all the times I deployed, the both 2 times I deployed, I left my vehicle with family. What if I accidentally ate an edible by accident thinking it was real food? Could I still be able to join the military? You have to wait for that stuff to clear your system, I guess. You know, they don't care if your story is that I accidentally ate it, because that's how they're going to kind of treat it. They're, oh yeah, sure you did, right? They're not going to care. There's no way of proving that you accidentally ate it, right? So you're going to have to, just wait until it's out of your system, try again, hopefully. But if you didn't know you ate it and you just came up hot on a piss test, you're kind of screwed there. And you're probably going to be banned from being able to join for X amount of months or whatever until they let you attempt another try to pass a drug test. So just, I guess, don't be eating weird stuff that you don't know what the hell it is, I guess. Battle Buddy is for IET, AIT, and deployments. There are other situations where you have battle buddies, you just might not call them battle buddies. But there's the same kind of concept of having to go in groups of 2s. Or having someone that you can contact. You might not have to hang out with a person, but they may have like a requirement where you need to have someone that you can contact if you get in trouble. How often did you see your battalion commander while you were in the army? Usually at least once a week. Usually, because a lot of times at the end of the week, you usually have like a battalion formation, and they do like a little safety thing sometimes, not all the time, but quite often you would do that with the units I was in, and they would usually have the battalion commander come out, give a little safety brief for a few minutes or whatever, and then be released for the weekend. Sometimes though, there was some units, like I think actually my last unit, I don't think we did it every weekend, I think we would just do it before like a long weekend, maybe if it was a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend, we would do that, or some kind of special occasion. But I don't know, it varies I guess sometimes. Sometimes you just see that person walking around too though, so. And then actually, technically me, I would see them very often because I had to do a lot of stuff with ammunition, and there was often where I had to go to the battalion commander to get signatures sometimes. So it depends. Do you call 911 in the military if you need MPs, or is another number? No, it's still 911, but you're usually supposed to tell the operator that you're on base. So if you go and you're on base and something happens in emergency, you call 911. That 911 dispatch is still probably local police department for the area, not like a military special one. It's still like a local police department, and you have to let them know that I am on base, so that way they can dispatch a military police officer to your location. Otherwise, it's going to take too long for a civilian police officer to try to get on base and do it. It's going to be their jurisdiction anyways. But it's usually you have to usually tell them that you're on the military installation, so that way they can dispatch a military police officer to your location to help you. Your thoughts on Fort Campbell? I've never been to Fort Campbell, so I don't know. I knew a guy who called his battle buddy his... Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, sure. How fast can you get E9 from E1, and how does promotions to higher ranks work, like test, PT achievement, etc.? I briefly kind of talk about it a little bit in like the enlisted rank video that I did a long time ago. I need to do an updated version of that to kind of explain it a little bit. So starting with the time frame, to go to E1 to E9, that takes a while. Most commonly, maybe like 15, 16, 17 years. It's going to take a while to get up to E9. So that's going to take a little bit. And then as far as how the promotion process works, well, E1 through E4 is an advancement that happens automatically with a set time frame as long as you're not getting in trouble. From E4 to E5 and then E5 to E6 is a promotion board that you have to go through, and then you have to accumulate points to make promotion based on your PT score, your awards, your education, different things like that to equal points. And each MOS has their own set of point standards that they have that change from month to month. As far as what the requirement is to get to that next rank. And then to go from E6 to E7 and up is a different process of these higher up individuals looking at your packet to see what your accomplishments are, what your achievements are, and deciding if you are experienced enough to move up to the next rank or not. They kind of look at that packet and they see, all right, we need X amount of E7s in this MOS. They look at all the packets for people who are eligible, determine which of those individuals are most experienced that should move to the next rank, and then promote those individuals. So that gets a little bit more complicated when you go from E7 all the way up, but around probably 15, 16 years or so it takes to get up to E9 if you're lucky. Some people, it takes them 20 years to get to E9. How long does Army deploy for? Used to be a common thing, around a year to 15 months. There's a lot of deployments now that are shorter, that are only like 6 months-ish. But I don't think anymore they're doing anything more than a year. But a lot of the common ones nowadays are now 6 months. Hey Christopher, do soldiers especially, was it infantry probably, generally get day off on the weekends? Yeah, for the most part, unless there's some kind of training event going on or field problem or something special going on the weekends. For the most part, if it's just normal day-to-day operations, you're working Monday through Friday, off on the weekends, off on the holidays. There are some MOSs that don't get that luxury, but most of the MOSs in the Army do. And then, like I said, it just varies based on if there's some kind of training events going on, if you'll be working on that weekend or have duty like staff duty or CQ where you have to sit at a desk for that Saturday or whatever. Those will kind of vary in there, but for the most part, yes, weekends off. Is physical therapy a good MOS? Like, is it Monday through Friday for 8 hours? I don't know for sure. Physical therapy, those might vary because you might have individuals where they need to do physical therapy on the weekends. So there's a possibility you could have these individuals possibly working in a hospital, working on the weekends. So I don't know. Does promotion E8 and E9 come from Department of the Army? Yeah, essentially they have board members that are reviewing your packet to decide if you're going to move up to those ranks. So whether those are either a master sergeant or a sergeant major, those ones will go over there. And then if you're going to be a first sergeant or a command sergeant major, those ones are a little bit differently too, even though it's kind of it's basically the same pay, but more responsibility. And then they kind of move on to those positions to have that kind of higher responsibility, I guess. I was able to buy my own car, but then again, this was after I came back from Iraq. Oh, some of you are just giving an explanation. Yeah. That's always a big thing that a lot of people will do is they'll save up a bunch of money from like a deployment and either put a huge down payment on a car so they have a really low monthly payment on a really nice vehicle, or they just simply buy a car flat out. I know there was like a soldier that I had who he saved up a ton of money and was able to buy like a really nice, I think like a Mustang Cobra that was like all souped up and everything like that, and he was able to put like a huge down payment down on that thing to make his monthly payments like really easily affordable. He was only E4, he was only a specialist, but because he put such a huge down payment down, he was easily able to, well within his budget, make that car payment on that really nice car and everything, because he paid off like 75% of it already up front. So a lot of people do that sometimes. Otherwise, you just have to kind of get a beater sometimes to get you from place to place when you're first starting off. What do you think of the Irish Army? Do you ever work with the Irish or British Army? I've never done anything with either of those. It's more common that people work with British military when you're deployed sometimes. But I don't have no opinion on Irish Army or anything because I've never done anything with them. Do modern Army soldiers go to combat these days? Yes, but they're definitely not as current locations right now is not as active as it was like back in 2005, 2010, those kind of time frames. Right now, there are still some people going to combat deployments, but there's very few. So you'll see very few people with combat patches anymore because there's not much actively going on right now. This, like, we're not in Iraq anymore. We have some individuals in Kuwait that do some support stuff, but that's not a combat zone. We have some people in Afghanistan, but most of that work that's being done in Afghanistan is like advisory and kind of like training kind of position stuff where they're training individuals in that area to help, learn from the U.S. military. So not a whole lot of fighting as much as it used to be. Chris, can the death of a loved or beloved family pet allow you to return home immediately while on deployment? I know it sounds silly, but General Pershing supposedly came back home for a month when his dog died. Well, he was a general. He could probably do whatever the hell he wanted to do. But otherwise, generally, no. Now, for the most part, it has to be immediate family. Like if it was a cousin that passed away, they might not even let you come home for that. It has to be pretty much like a mother, father, maybe a grandmother, grandfather sometimes, brother, sister, something like that, spouse. If it was something like, a distant cousin or a great aunt or I don't know, something, a lot of other situations, they won't let you come back from a deployment. They'll sometimes allow you to maybe take your vacation during that time frame, bump it up a little bit earlier for some situations, and that's just when you need to take your vacation, and that's it. But no, not for pets. Yeah, only a general pull it off. Yeah, pretty much. Ever caught wearing your uniform wrong? I don't know. If it was probably something like really small, like maybe my flag was missing because it fell off, or it got pulled off, or something I forgot to put on. I don't know. It probably would have been something really minor like that. So essentially, no. Or like you'll get it sometimes where you don't realize it, but your the bottom of your pants come unbloused from your boots, and they're hanging out, and someone points you out for that or whatever, and you just fix it real quick. But nothing's crazy. How does 11 X-Ray recruit get his job as 11 Bravo or 11 Charlie? Typically, at some point during OSIT, they'll make a determination of how many 11 Bravos they need and how many 11 Charlies they need. They usually need more 11 Bravos than they do 11 Charlies, and they'll kind of just, I don't know what the actual process of choosing is, if they evaluate it based on who they think will be better at each MOS. I'm not really too sure on that part, but during OSET is when they're going to make that evaluation, and the larger percentage will go 11 Bravo, and then a smaller percentage will become 11 Charlies. I have a GED. That's fine. If you're asking about if you can still join with a GED, you can, but you have to score higher on the ASVAB. Okay, you have a question here. Are there limits on GED, like promotion, bonuses, etc.? No. Once you're in the military, they don't care if your education is high school diploma or GED. The only time that does factor in is joining the military. So if you have a GED, you have to score higher on the ASVAB than someone who has a high school diploma, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a few other little subtle things where you might have a higher standard you have to meet because you have a GED and not a high school diploma. Hello, Chaos 6. I had a question. Is it normal to get nauseous after taking a dye to dilate your eyes? To get nauseous? I mean, I could see that, I guess. I've only done that once, where I had to have my eyes dilated and everything's super bright and everything like that. Maybe if it's messing with you mentally to where you're feeling motion sickness, I guess that could be possible. I mean, if it's something you really think is serious enough, I would see a doctor, but I could see maybe that kind of a situation making you kind of nauseous from getting your eyes dilated. GED probably won't get a bonus. I don't remember if they restrict bonuses based on education. They do restrict it based on your ASVAB scores. Like I think you have to have a 100 or 110 on your GT section of the ASVAB to qualify for bonuses typically. They might make some exceptions sometimes, but I don't know if they care for bonuses as far as high school diploma or GED. I'm not too sure on that. For all special forces in the Army, do all the units have sergeant MOSs, or oops, I lost it, or can they have like infantry MOSs for special forces? So special forces have a specific MOS, which is an 18 series MOS. So those individuals that are actually special forces with the special forces tab are an 18 series, and they're a sergeant and above. You can't be someone like a specialist or below with that, because once you get to the Q course, you become promoted to sergeant automatically pretty much. But you can have individuals in the Special Forces that are other MOSs. They're just part of that support part of Special Forces, not actually the tabbed Special Forces individuals. But you don't usually have 11 Bravos in a Special Forces unit that I've seen. If I have a GED and I talk to a recruiter, do they ask you why you drop out of high school, and what should you say? What would be the most beneficial so your recruiter will work with you and give you good? No, they don't really ask why you got your GED, why you got out of school. They just care that you have one or the other, and they're probably going to let you know that, hey, you have a GED, you need to score higher on the ASVAB than someone who has a high school diploma. But otherwise, they're probably not going to really care why, just as long as you have one of the two to be able to do so. We got a new member of the channel, so special shout out. Oh man, it's tough. What is it? Overkill Gaming. Okay, I see what you did there. Very, very fancy with the characters there. So thank you, Overkill Gaming, for joining the channel. Hopefully you get some great perks out of it that you'll enjoy. And awesome. Thank you very much, man. Or woman, I don't know your, it doesn't matter. Thanks for joining. Chaos, let's say that a soldier get lost in a combat zone on the day he returned to the States. What would happen? He gets lost in a combat zone? Well, how did he return to the States then? It's confusing. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to decipher this. So let's say a soldier gets lost in a combat zone on the day he returning to the States. What would happen? Okay, so let's say, I'm assuming maybe the day he was supposed to go back to the States or something like that. They're gonna search for him. I mean, we had this kind of situation that one individual, they went AWOL while in Afghanistan or whatever, and he disappeared. They looked for him, eventually turned himself in or whatever it was that happened, I don't remember. But they're gonna look for that individual. And even if they got lost back in the States after returning from a deployment, they're gonna look for him. They're gonna consider him AWOL, if need be, and then try to figure out what happened to that person. How long do Special Forces stay in the States? I don't know. They do deploy quite often though. They deploy, sometimes it could be every other 6 months. I don't know though for sure. I've heard situations like that, but I don't know for sure if that's really what they do. If they do, I've heard that they sometimes deploy every 6 months, but I don't know if that's all around. I don't know. That's just what I've heard. How do your parents and brother travel after you graduate from boot camp? Like, do they have to come to boot camp, and how do they travel, and do they pay for it, and how much does it cost? So no, if your parents or family or whoever wants to come see you graduate from basic training, they have to pay for that. The Army doesn't pay for your family to come, watch you graduate. Like when I graduated basic training, my family, didn't have the money to afford to travel all the way out to Georgia. I didn't really care anyway, so I told them anyways. I was like, if you guys want to come, sure, but otherwise you're not gonna hurt my feelings if you don't come. So I didn't care. So they didn't come to mine, which saved them money, which was fine with me. But yeah, they don't pay for that kind of a thing. Do Rangers have like 18 series MOSs, or is that only ASF? ASF, Special Forces, yeah, that's 18 series MOSs is the Special Forces MOS, so that's only, those individuals in an 18 series MOS would be in a Special Forces group. They wouldn't be in in a Ranger battalion. Hey Chris, I really appreciate your videos. I ship in 30 days, and your channel has been so helpful, brother. Well, awesome. Thank you for the kind words. Good luck to you. And thanks again for joining the channel. Chris, I remember my first sergeant went to Sergeant Major Academy back in the 80s in preparation for promotion E9. Yes, that is still a thing. Do they still call it? I think they still call it like First Sergeant Academy and Sergeant Major Academy and all that stuff. It may have changed on the names. I'm not 100% sure on that. But they still have that, yes. You still have schools you have to go to pretty much from E5 on. If you're trying to become a E5, the pay grade of E5, which is a sergeant, you have a school you have to go to, which is BLC, Basic Leaders Course. Then E6 has a school, E7, E8, E9, all that stuff. All of them have a school. Even officers have a school. Like if you want to go from being a lieutenant to trying to become a captain, you have to go to the captain's course. They have a captain's course to be able to go to. I don't think they call it captain's course anymore. It's like the Basic Leaders Course or something. I forget what it's called now. But they have this career course that even officers have to go through when they move up through the different ranks. See, Chris, we used to have 11 hotels in our unit. Tow gunner. They did away with that MOS. I don't know if they did. They might have. 11 Hotel probably did, because I think the only 11 series MOSs they have now are 11 Bravo and 11 Charlie. So it's possible that I don't think they have a specific tow gunner, because they have like the tow missiles attached to like Bradleys, which are 19 kilos, or no, 19 deltas for scouts. So they probably did away with that MOS because there's a lot of other individuals that'll use that, and they don't really need necessarily a specific MOS just for that. Is the penicillin shot still a thing? I believe so, yeah. Some people nickname it the peanut butter shot, but yeah, the penicillin shot's still a thing. Can you go home after basic training or tech school? Typically you do, not between, but after all of it's done. The only time you'll kind of go home during basic training or during AIT is if your school falls during like Christmas holiday. Then a lot of times you'll get to go home during that time frame, but otherwise you won't. But most commonly you will go home after graduating from basic training. That way you can have any goods that you need to have shipped to your first duty station, arranged to have them shipped, get any other personal items, because when you went to basic training AIT, you probably had a little backpack with maybe one set of civilian clothes and a few basic stuff. So they usually want to allow you a chance to be able to go home and get all the items that you need to have, so that you're not having to purchase brand new clothes because you don't have anything at your first unit. So usually they give you that time, but I've also heard of some times where they'll just have you go directly to your unit, and then they'll work it out and have you go on leave shortly after. But the most common one I've usually seen is that you go on vacation prior to going to your first unit. I see a question from a little bit farther back. How long does it take to promote for the memberships? So you have the very first, it's talking about the channel memberships. So like everybody in here has the little private E2 mosquito wings rank, because it's the first month. It does go up in the second month, but then it doesn't go up again until I think 6 months, or maybe 3 months. I don't remember, but it basically goes from the different icons that it'll go through on the channel memberships is the private little mosquito wings, then to a private first class, then to a specialist rank, then to a sergeant rank, and then it jumps quite a bit, but because it goes to a year of being a member, which is a captain on the channel, and then it jumps really far to a 4-star general if you're someone who stays a channel member for 2 years. So it kind of jumps around. It can't go in order because of the amount of months that it takes. There's not enough promotion scale to go through all the ranks, so I have to jump around to try to get you if you're elite, the very top person as far as being a member for 2 years, then you become 4-star general on the Christopher Chaos channel. 19 Delta or 11 Bravo, which would you choose? I don't know. If I was choosing between the two, I feel like 19 Delta would have more of a role that they would do when they're not in a combat situation, where 11 Bravo is pretty much doing back-to-back training and other details and other stuff, whereas 19 Delta, you at least have a vehicle that you have to maintain. If you're not doing training, you're not doing stuff, so you'd have a little bit better of a job to do when not in a situation. So possibly 19 Delta. We're at, what are we at, 54 minutes so far of the live stream, so maybe about 5-10-ish minutes or so, and we'll be cutting off this live stream. So if you didn't get your question in, don't get your question in or whatever, come back to the stream later. Make sure to leave a comment after the video's been processed or whatever, or follow me on Instagram. That's the best way you can find me. Shoot me a message on there. A lot of times I'm pretty good at responding back to people via Instagram. Overkill Gaming, thanks for the super chat. As far as with shipping, can I take nothing to basic? No, because there are some stuff they require you to take. They should give you a packing list. If not, they might direct you to like the website to look up the packing list or whatever. But there are some items that you have to take to basic. Like they're gonna make you take razors to be able to shave with. They're gonna make you take deodorant, probably toothpaste and hygiene stuff. They're gonna make you take white socks, I think is one of the other requirements. There's a lot of requirements. So there's like hygiene stuff mainly is pretty key. So you have to have that stuff. So no, you can't just show up, just you and your packet. That's it. There's some requirements. They usually have a packing list of things you're supposed to bring with you. So thanks for the donation, man. Let's say someone dropped off out of high school for depression or attempted suicide. If they are completely fine now, can they lie at MEPS and join and they can't look up your medical records? I don't know 100% for sure if they look up your medical records, so I don't really know on that part as far as if they're looking back into your medical records. They might, but I don't know for sure. So I couldn't really tell you. I will ship out 2 months. Your videos are useful. Well, thanks. Was it Captain Jock? Maybe it's supposed to be Jack? I don't know. But thanks. Appreciate it. Let's see. Coming back to here. Can you join the military with a green card? Yes. For some MOSs, though. Just be aware that there are some MOSs that require U.S. citizenship, but there are some MOSs that you have to either be a U.S. citizen or at least have a green card. So only having a green card will limit some of the jobs you can come in as into the military. But they're still going to run a background check on you and everything like that. You have to live in the United States probably. A lot of other stuff with it still. Not sure if you answered earlier, but thoughts on private military? Yeah, Blackwater thing? Yeah, don't really have an opinion on it. I know they got in some trouble. I did answer that earlier. Do airborne units deploy more than regular units? No, I don't think it really matters on that part. Probably the only unit that it really matters as far as deploying more often is like Special Forces units. Those ones will deploy more often than a lot of other units. Otherwise, it's really just up to like how they're kind of selecting which units to deploy, which ones to send. But just because they're airborne or just because they're infantry units or whatever doesn't necessarily mean they're going to deploy the most. They don't check medical records if you say no on depression? Yeah, maybe. I don't know for sure. Take paperwork and clothes on your back. We had to buy our stuff at reception. So that might be a possibility, maybe. I don't know. Your recruiter should tell you when you go to MEPS and everything like that. So that might also depend on the basic training you're going to. Like when I went to Benning, that was a while back, so things have probably changed since then possibly, but we had a requirement because they did a layout when we got there to make sure we had these items. If you didn't have the items, sure, not a big deal. They would make you go buy them, right? But there are some places that might require you to show up with that stuff, and some that maybe if you don't have the stuff, then they're just going to make you go buy it. So your recruiter should tell you. Your recruiter should tell you whether you can just buy it when you get there, or if the basic training you're going to requires you to have this stuff. Your recruiter should help you out. And in Las Vegas, a future soldier. Las Vegas is awesome. I thought it'd be cool to move to Henderson. Can you do MOS Monday on 31 Kilo? Eventually. I have MOS Monday that was supposed to go up last Monday, but I didn't get around to editing it, that I have for Monday. But you have to hold off and wait and see what that is. Did they change it so they can look up your medical records now? Or you're just still probably talking between chat because I don't know anything about the medical records part. Giving the VA access. Oh, you're still talking about that. How much money do you need at basic? They usually have like I forget what it is. They tell you usually to come with, I think, like no more than $80, or I forget what it is. They usually have like a set amount that they want you to come with, at least this, but no more than this. But off the top of my head, I don't know what that amount is or anything like that. We got a couple more minutes before we're going to be cutting off the live stream. So maybe after the live stream or whatever, if you were interested in maybe becoming a channel member, you got like these other people have these cool icons next to them, like Alyssa right there in the chat right there. Hey, Alyssa, thanks for joining and being a member and joining in on Chaos Live tonight. If you want one of those cool icons, including the emojis that you get and the other perks that come along with the different tiers, maybe check out that join button down below. If you're watching this on a mobile device and you don't have that join button down below of this video, check the link in the description to check that out and see if it's something that maybe interests you. If so, maybe think about joining at one of those tiers that piques your interest to get some extra perks and get those cool icons next to you. Chris, you should become a recruiter. Well, I have to go back in the Army for that. Otherwise, I'm kind of a recruiter-ish. I mean, I can't sign anybody up in the military, and I can't give sometimes, answers on certain things that recruiters could. But I'm kind of like a recruiter. There's probably some people that, turn to me before they turn to the recruiter to find out information. And in a sense, I'm recruiting for the Army, I guess. So my main thing is I want to entertain and I want to help people who are, you know, maybe wanting to make a huge decision like joining the Army or the military, even for that matter. So, yeah. Any tips on D-Lab? I have no idea. I've never taken the D-Lab. So it's the language test. For those of you who don't know what the D-Lab is, there's a language test that you can take, and I've never taken it because I don't speak another language, so I don't have any good tips on that. Do you think Army EOD is better? Was it supposed to be better than something else? I mean, Army EOD is probably pretty cool, I would imagine. I don't know. I have no idea though. If you become a member and went to ROTC, do you join at a higher rank? Yeah, I think so. I think the colleges would be like, oh, you're a member of the Christopher Chaos channel? Automatic promotion. So yeah, definitely join the Christopher Chaos channel and get automatically promoted in ROTC. If you were in the military still, would you become a warrant officer? I don't know. I don't know if I'd be interested in being a warrant officer. I don't know. Probably if I was still in the military. Well, it'd be too late now to reclass, but maybe if I had made the decision earlier on, I would have reclassed to some other MOS like 25 Victor, the documentary specialist or something like that. But I don't know if I'd go and be a warrant officer. Okay, do you think Army EOD is better than Air Force EOD? I don't know, because I've never even known anybody in Air Force EOD to really have a good comparison to which one would be better or anything, so I don't know. Hey Chris, I'm enlisting to be a 68 Whiskey. I might go to airborne school. Thank you for helping me learn about what I want to do. It means a lot. Well, thank you, Aaron. Hopefully it all goes well and everything rocks. What's your favorite memory when you were in the service? Man, I don't know. Favorite memory? Maybe Korea was fun. There was a lot of fun times in Korea, getting to see some of the sites there. I enjoyed Korea. I don't know. I don't know what my favorite would be, though. What jobs can females sign up for or not sign up for? 18 series, I think, right now is the only MOS that females are not allowed in. Females can do 11 Bravo. Females can do Ranger Battalion. Everything else. I think it's pretty much 18 series MOS Special Forces that they do not currently let females in. Overkill Gaming with a super chat. Thank you, man. Why didn't you re-enlist? It was never... Well, I did re-enlist several times. So I re-enlisted quite a few times before eventually getting out of the military after a little over 10 years. But the reason why I didn't re-enlist after that was because my intention was never to make the military a career. It was supposed to be just an experience of getting 4 years and then moving on to college and having that experience of being in the military and then moving on. So I didn't re-enlist that last time after doing 10 years, after I'd already re-enlisted like 3 times, because I had finally had a chance to get out successfully and move on to something on the civilian side without being trapped or whatever. So if there is a MOS that is similar or the same in another branch, is it possible to switch over to that same job but just in another branch? I believe so. I believe if you wanted to do, say you were this MOS in the Army and you wanted to do that same job but on the Air Force side, Navy, or whatever, and it's the same basic job, you could. I think they still send them through the school, though. They won't send them through basic training, but they do, I think, still send them through that tech school or whatever, and just so that they can learn how to do it for that branch of the military, because you might know how to do that job in the Army, but let's say the Air Force has their own kind of standards on how they do it, so they want to make sure that you are familiar with the Air Force's protocols or whatever to do that same job. So you probably would still most likely possibly do that tech school, but I don't know for sure. I feel like there are some situations with that, but there might be some situations where they might just allow you to go directly into it. I'm not 100% sure on that, actually. Weirdest MOS in the Army? Weirdest MOS? I don't know. The plumber one's kind of weird. It's not actually called a plumber. They got some high-speed name for it, but they're not just like unclogging toilets and stuff. They're usually laying pipes for water to be moved from one location to another location so people can have fresh water and a lot of other things. But I don't know. That one's kind of weird-ish, but I can still see a good use for it. I don't know what a weird one would be. If females can do 11 X-ray, then I should not be too worried. Yeah, I mean, Females can do 11 X-ray. They can do 19 kilos. They can be tankers. They can be scouts. They can be anything right now except for special forces. I believe that's the only MOS that they do not allow females into is special forces. It should be that if someone watches ThatChrisChaos, that person should be an automatic lieutenant colonel if they join the military. Sure, I'll try to put in a good word and see if I can't get you guys promoted to lieutenant colonels if you join the Army from being a member of the channel. Fiance is Army Reserves. That's awesome. I think I've seen you say something before about having a husband or fiance or whatever it was about being in the military. So that's awesome. Chris, on the lighter side here, I'm thinking listening into the Army band, not the national band, but the small ones that uses guitars. I've been practicing with Guitar Hero. You might need a little bit more than Guitar Hero to be able to, because you're gonna have to do an audition and then they have to, bring you in from there. So I think Guitar Hero is not gonna give you enough skills to probably pass that audition. Hey Chris, hope you're having a fine weekend. Well, thanks Joe E. Thanks for being a member, and thank you. So we'll do one old question, one new question, and that is going to close out the live stream for tonight. So I'm going to go backwards in this chat. I'm going to see if I can find a good question, hopefully, that I missed, and try to answer that for the individual if the individual is still in here. If not, then that's just a different thing. Trying to find one. Got a super chat too. We'll have to get to the super chat as well, though, from Overkill Gaming. Hang on, let me find this old question, and then I'll get to Overkill Gaming super chat as well. Here we go. I hear you go to reception and stay there for about a week, do paperwork and other crap, but when do you take your PT test during reception? So I've actually heard that I think it might have changed now for a lot of individuals. They used to have it where you had a really low standard PT test that you would do in reception before you would move on to your actual basic training unit or even OSIT unit. But I've heard now that they make you do that really low standard physical fitness test at the beginning of your basic training unit. And now they just simply do all your in-processing, your uniforms and everything during reception, send you to your unit to the that you're gonna do basic training with, and then right there in that first week, maybe within the first day or two, do that first PT test that's a really low standard PT test just to kind of see where you're at, and then later do more closer to the actual standards of PT test. So it could vary. It could either be towards the end of reception or the very beginning of that first week of basic training or OSIT. So that could vary. All right, then we have super chat from Overkill Gaming. Thanks for the donation, man. As far as shipping, can I take nothing to basic? Didn't you already? Oh, that was already one I already did. Different one. Okay. How old were you when you joined, and what was your goal? I was 19 when I joined the Army, but my goal then, first when I was joining the Army, was to actually be a mechanic in the Army because of my red-green colorblind, and I didn't have that great of ASVAB scores. I didn't qualify for a mechanic, which I was later glad because those guys work crazy hours and work a lot that I wouldn't probably have the patience for. But my goal originally was to come in, be a mechanic, do 4 years in the Army, get out and go to a trade school to learn mechanics, and then hopefully work my way up to being working at NASCAR inside the garage and working on actual stock cars. I thought that'd be kind of fun. Later, it kind of just changed to just wanting to get the 4 years of experience in the military, get out and go to school for something. I wasn't too sure really what until like later that I got interested in video production, that I really wanted to pursue that. But that was kind of the goal. Initially it was to be mechanic, and then later kind of turned into more video stuff a little bit later. So one last question. Let's go with this one. Do they still call screw-ups in boot Gomer Pyle? That's really just personal preference as far as what the drill sergeant, I guess, wants to call him. I mean, technically, Gomer Pyle was. Oh no, he was Army, wasn't he? Yeah, I was thinking of Pyle during Full Metal Jacket, which was Marines. But I think Gomer Pyle from the old school TV show, he was Army, wasn't he? But anyways, personal preference probably on the drill sergeants of what they want to use for insults or what they want to use for this or that or whatever. So that can really vary. So all right, there you guys go. that's going to cut it for this edition of Chaos Live. If I missed your question, I apologize. Sometimes the chat gets crazy and I have to skip around. Nothing personal. If I know the answer to the question and you still have a question you want to get answered, come back in a few minutes when this video has been processed on YouTube. Leave it down in the comment section. Or a better way is to follow me on Instagram. Shoot me a message on there. I'm pretty good at responding to people there, and I can answer your questions maybe there. If you have something important that didn't get addressed, I can hit you up. If you're interested in getting some extra perks out of this channel, maybe think about looking at that join button that's down below or in the link in the description. It tells you about all the different levels and what perks come along with it. Things like getting bonus videos, things like getting early access to videos before everybody else, so you can watch maybe an upcoming video before it goes public, or even at the lowest level, if you just want some early intel. I'll be giving out some intel as far as what videos are going to be available coming up soon or next week, or what MOS Monday is going to be before everybody else knows, and all that kind of stuff. So look at it, see if it's something that interests you. If it does, maybe think about joining. Thank you guys so much for coming in to hang out. If you didn't already hit that like button, hit that like button. It's awesome. It means you're cool too or something. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. I will see you guys again real soon. See ya.